Hello everyone. Today Alison and I would be with the Jupiter in Cancer, and as you know, since the beginning of the year, as this 2025 is a year of quite shifts and changes in the sky, we have been discussing. Alison and I have been discussing. We started with the shift in the nodes, and then we came to the Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries, and today we will be covering the Jupiter in Cancer with the general meaning, and also we will give some ideas about the dates, Jupiter return, and like we always do, we will go through the 12 houses so that everyone could have a general understanding of if Jupiter is going through a certain house, certain area of their lives, they can understand what might possibly happen in their lives. So, Alison.
Good. Yeah, okay, great. So shall we have a quick look at the ingress chart, Terry? Do you want to get that up or shall I get that up or
Yeah, I can give you right away the I mean, like, it doesn't make any difference. I can probably, oh no, not me. I'm not going to share. I'm just giving the sharing. Okay. I think you should be able to share now. You can put the chart up if you want.
yeah, great. Okay, let's put the chart up. Okay. So yeah, so first of all, I think the ingress chart is really interesting. So Jupiter ingressing into Cancer on the 9th of June 2025. And this is set for France, actually. So it's set for Europe. So that's at 5 minutes past 11, and Jupiter is here.
Mhm.
So we can see that it's together with Mercury and that it's in mutual reception with the moon in Sagittarius, which I think is interesting because this Jupiter in Cancer, with its nurturing and home-loving kind of vibe, if you like, in reception with the moon, which is about Sagittarius, the journey, meaning, and faith, finding meaning through faith, through the journey, through home, and through the idea of where you belong, I think it is quite important in this chart. And that's definitely in sort of those two ideas coming together. I think your instinctive desire to belong is united with, the idea of family and home and tribe. And I've been talking to quite a lot of people, and I think increasingly people are actually feeling less like they want to go away for really long holidays and much more like they want to kind of stay at home and explore locally and that kind of thing. And this is probably going to expand with Jupiter moving into Cancer. And it's going to stay there for a whole year, which is twice as long as usual. Normally it spends about 6 months in a sign, but it's whizzed through Gemini. And because of the retrograde, later in the year, it's going to spend, yeah, pretty much 12 months there.
Actually, normally it spends in every sign more or less 1 year. Maybe it would be a bit longer than it stayed in Gemini. It could be the case because it will go into the Cancer June 9, 2025, and it will only pass into Leo June 30, 2026. So it will stay a bit longer than a year time. I think last year it was May, around May, that it passed into Gemini, if I'm not mistaken. I can check it always, but yeah, it will stay a bit longer than the average 1 year time this year in Cancer. It's exalted, so it wants home. It wants to stay where it is. It's in Jupiter in Gemini. It's in detriment. It's what they call in traditional astrology. It's in exile. So it wants to be now like, oh, I
Yes.
want to feel nice at somewhere. I mean, like, it's really interesting. Like, as you mentioned, like this. Mutual reception between the Jupiter and Moon in the ingress chart, and also that we were talking about the chart before we started the recording, and it's also has this very tight hand in hand which is the conjunction situation with the Mercury as well. And it is like, you know, that I mean, like as if the meaning, the type of belief, the faith that we are putting in this like is in line with our mindset, and it's they are forming a unity together. And I think it could be quite related to our roots, to where we come from, because there is this Cancer is could be about our past, the tribe that we belong to, and they
Hmm.
all come together, make a unity, and it's like when you were saying all this journey, I felt like let the journey start. It felt like that, no, with the Jupiter. Jupiter is about journey, of course, more like long distance journeys, but it could be also, I mean, it doesn't need to be physical. It could be a spiritual, more philosophical journey that is like this. Maybe it's like sometimes traveling back in time, right?
Hmm.
It
Sure.
has it has a sense of like that. I mean, like you travel back in time, and then what you get from the source where you come from, that also helps you to expand your view and to have a bigger picture, to help you grow. I mean, everything helps us grow, no, whether good or less positive experiences, that all those information, all those experiences uh, make us who we are, give meaning to us, right?
Yeah, sure. And of course, it must stay about a year in each sign because the Jupiter cycle is 12 years, of course.
Yeah.
Um, so every 12 years, you imagine this cycle of growth in your life and it's worth looking back then to see where what you were doing last time Jupiter kind of moved into Cancer, and absolutely to see where it is in your chart so that when we discuss that later, you'll know what area of life is going to be affected by this ingress, actually. So it is square, and the conjunction actually happened right at the end of Gemini, that Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, which in itself was interesting, this expansion of information and the kind of mindset type thing. And there have been quite a few last ditch conjunctions. I think was conjunct Neptune right in the last sort of degree of Pisces earlier this year, and now both Saturn and Neptune have ingressed into Aries, and they're not going to come together until February 2026. But there they are, sort of sitting side by side, squaring in this ingress chart, Jupiter and Mercury. So this is in itself quite interesting because it's a challenge, isn't it? With Jupiter and Mercury, as you said, representing the kind of coming together of the sense of meaning and how we're thinking about things, and that all being to do with family and tribe and belonging, nurturing as well in Cancer. And then this kind of more warrior-like energy in Aries with Saturn and Neptune, and Saturn trying to make something manifest or perhaps to put the brakes on, while Neptune's kind of dreaming about, well, about sort of its quest really, and that quest might be about fighting or something, perhaps almost, but certainly going on its own journey, going on its own kind of its own goals, which is contrary to Jupiter in Cancer, which is about wider family and wider meaning. It's not quite so personal.
No, yeah, of course not. I mean, it's like it's about, yeah, that where we belong to. So it's
Mm.
less personal compared to. So there's a bit of conflict of interest, I think, in the sense between what maybe Jupiter in Cancer is trying to achieve compared to what Saturn and Neptune trying to express through the areas. So it's like we can see, of course, with that square that has been, especially between Jupiter and Saturn there. I mean, that square has been there for a while, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's interesting to see. And also, I mean, the point is that they are just at the beginning of the cycle. So it's like it's a
Yes.
very raw immature, we can say in a way, the start point. I mean, like everyone's like trying to settle down. It's like, where am I? Okay, where was I? Now I went into this, and they were also in more like mutable signs, more that adaptability, flexibility point, and now they are in another region also. I mean, like for Jupiter is like uh, with the Gemini air sign, there's all more communication, and then mind is working more. And now Cancer, the heart, the inner world, etc., will work more for uh, Jupiter to be able to achieve its mission this
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Definitely sort of emotional, sensitive in Cancer, highly imaginative. So with Mercury there, it's going to communicate much more through the idea of imagination and pictures and all that kind of thing, definitely. And I think they're kind of brought together there by the moon, really, which is aspecting sort of both, well, aspecting through that quincunx, but also a mutual reception with the Jupiter and making that trine to Saturn and Neptune down there in Aries. Yeah, so it's kind of bringing them together through the idea of how we feel in ourselves, our instinctive feelings, and the idea of meaning again through Sagittarius. Yeah.
Okay, exactly, exactly. And this year also we can also give some information about the this is the, of course, the moment that Jupiter will be starting its journey in Cancer. This is the chart, and there would be a retrograde period for the Jupiter in Cancer, and that would be on the November 11, 2025. It will start in the 25 degrees 09 minutes, and it will only station direct on March 11, 2026 at 15 degrees 05 minutes. So there would be a retrograde motion for around 10 degrees in that sense. Um, so I think that, I mean, like when we think about the 12-year cycle, or that the Jupiter return, the people who have this degrees between 25 and 15 will have this Jupiter in Cancer. It's like the return happening more than once for them this year. So
Yeah.
they can always have a look at that, and think in every time that Jupiter in Cancer in those degrees hit, what is happening, what kind of views they have. But we can go more into details when we start, I think.
So this is interesting chart as well, the retrograde chart, because now the square between Jupiter and Saturn has become a trine. So so there's going to be a real emphasis on this trine because Jupiter's retrograde. So whoops, sorry. So it'll be going quite slowly at this point while it's thinking about turning round. Um, yeah, so it's a trine from Pisces to Cancer. And this is actually, I think it's the first trine that we're getting, perhaps, actually, between these two signs since that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020.
Okay, I'm looking at it now because
So
I
that
took the Jupiter Saturn.
so
Actually,
that's
in June, August, the exact one, that should be the nearest one, probably.
yeah.
The exact trine
Mm-hmm.
between Jupiter and Saturn would be August 31st, 2026, when the Jupiter is in Leo, and the
Okay.
Saturn is in Aries. But I think this is the nearest that they will probably get
Yeah.
without being the exact like thing, because it's not, I mean, like we are talking about 14 minutes of.
40 minutes of arc, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because okay, so what's actually happening here then is that Saturn's moving faster. So Jupiter's not able to complete that trine actually until next August in fire signs. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So
Yeah,
it's like the Jupiter Neptune coming together this year, not quite connecting. So it's kind of an idea of what might happen, but not actually quite making that contact. So we still have to wait for that, the promise of that Jupiter Saturn conjunction of 2020 in December, if you like, to actually manifest next year, I think. So that's really
yeah,
interesting. Okay.
yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly.
So that is interesting. And then it moves back, as you said, in what was the date again, Terry? I've written it.
March 11, 2026.
Yeah, March the 11th. 26. And okay. Yeah. There, here's Jupiter just turned direct here. So spent that long period retrograde actually from November till March. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a Christmas. So Sagittarians and probably people with a lot of Pisces or Sagittarius in the chart will be feeling this because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, of course, and co-rules Pisces. So so that's kind of suggesting kind of pausing, reflecting, I mean, for all of us on what we believe, how we expand on our family situation, perhaps all those kinds of things, but especially for those of us with lots of Pisces and Sagittarius in our charts, who may feel that things have been put on hold and our progress has been put on hold a bit with this retrograde period, in fact. So that's definitely to be looked at if you have those prominent in your chart.
I think also the interesting thing is that when Jupiter is in Cancer, of course, the Cancer is ruled by Moon, so
Hmm.
which would be the dispositor of the this transit all the year. So
Yeah.
that all that impact of Jupiter in Cancer would be go with the tides of the moon every time that moon changes sign, which happens on average 2.5 days, etc.
Yes.
That Jupiter in Cancer, I mean, like that will have an impact. I'm not going to say that it would be 100% what it is, but when I see I mean, like especially a social planet or an outer planet going into through like Cancer, which the other ones I never saw, of course. But it's like it feels like that moon being there with all these mood swings and changes and everything being impactful on that transit. It's unavoidable, I think, in a way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, Terry, that you've brought up there. Yes, exactly. So every time the moon changes sign, then it gives that Jupiter in Cancer or any planets that are in Cancer, in fact, a different flavor. And so they become much more changeable. And actually, interestingly, though, it is the moon in Sagittarius again here as it turns direct.
Yeah,
So that's quite a
exactly,
nice kind of connection again.
exactly.
Um, and I think to talk about Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer traditionally, I was listening to a financial astrologer is normally really good with the stock market. So so
It's interesting.
yeah, so get yourself prepared to make your investments there. Um, and then
Okay.
take them out just before it ingresses into Leo next summer. So that's my
Oh,
plan. I have no idea, but it's worth a try. But I mean, Jupiter is about expansion and growth, but Cancer is very good with money. I think people with a lot of Cancer in their sign, they're usually very good with money. Elon Musk, I mean, he's a he's a case in point.
mm.
But they
Yeah, I
tend
think
to have,
they like they I think some of them like keeping money. My father, I think when I looked at his chart, of course he passed away years ago, and then after I started looking at the family chart, and I was in shock. It's like he has all this. He was born in 36 and he had this all this cancer. It's outer planets. I was like, oh my goodness. And sun cancer, it's like, oh, and yeah, I mean, of course they were war people and all this thing. I mean, they weren't they didn't have money, etc. But when I was thinking of my father, is like it's like all the time knowing the value of his money in a way,
mhm,
or
mhm.
whatever, I mean, physical tangible things we had to protect them. like take care of them,
Mhm.
etc. It's like, so it's interesting point. I mean, it could be the case. I mean, like it's part of the part of the in the end. It's like I think family home, right? I mean, like it's part of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing that we have to take care of everything, and I mean, make sure that everything is protected in the best way possible, which includes our, of course, all the belongings as
Yeah,
well. I mean,
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm just going to stop sharing now.
yeah,
And yeah, Cancer, I mean, nurturing sign and very kind of connected, to the moon, and through that to the whole idea of motherhood and nurturing and protecting and to keeping things safe. Um, and cautious, kind of necessarily so. Mothers are cautious. They don't, most of us don't send our children, out into the world without at least some words of advice. Don't do this, don't do that. You know, even if the children then don't pay any attention to it. But I mean, it's that theme, isn't it, of just protecting and keeping everything safe and moving like the crab, of course, sort of sideways towards your goal. But you also mentioned, I think earlier, I don't know if that was while we were chatting before we started the recording, about this being a cardinal sign as well.
yeah.
And I think that's also really important to kind of mention, because we can kind of think, oh, cardinal, the moon, oh, it's all quite soft and receptive, which it is. It's a feminine sign. It is receptive, but it also is cardinal, so it's able to instigate. Cancer can start things. Cancer can make things happen. It's a happening sign. I do think that, even though it might do it in a quite a low-key way, which isn't always immediately obvious.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, also, I mean, like that again, going back to traditional astrology that I have been getting it a lot in the last month, and it's like also, I mean, like all these water signs are like, in a way, it's fertile. They are in
Yeah,
every sense. I mean,
definitely.
like, so it's like, I mean, there is a lot of potential in a way. I mean, like, also it's like cardinal is like taking action on the potentials and everything that
Hmm.
we see, right? Yeah, taking those initiative steps, taking the lead, and trying to start things. I mean, so in that sense, I think when we think about like Jupiter in Gemini, it's like, that rabbit hole. I have to take everything. I mean, it's like all the information possible and etc. Now it's a more like a period of like, okay, you have your, of course, all these emotions involved, but you also have this thing of that, like acting upon things when it comes to your beliefs, when it comes to the meaning that you give to life. Maybe you will start a new venture, a new journey, etc. But Cancer
Hmm.
is there, maybe supporting you emotionally as well, right?
Yeah.
We could think about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. Yes, Jupiter in Cancer is emotional support. I think that's actually a really good point to bring up there. Yeah, and I was just and also we talked about meaning and faith, and I mentioned earlier, I think that
Billy
Billy
Graham.
Graham, yeah, the great evangelist
If you
who
want,
died.
you can share the chart so that
Share
the
the chart.
right,
That's the
yeah.
ingress chart. Let me just open his chart. Sorry. I will find it here. Billy Graham. Yeah. So the great evangelist, yeah, he had Jupiter in Cancer in the fourth house. So it's very much at home down there. And then it's in mutual reception with with the moon in Sagittarius in the ninth, which is all about religion, and that was his belief, his absolute belief. And it's together with Mars in Sagittarius, which is ruling his ascendant there. I mean, that was just his whole being, if you like, I think.
I think
Um,
it's interesting also, you know what, that it's like it came to my mind, mutual reception and everything, seeing it's like the
mhm.
preacher, because it's like in a way you have those beliefs with the Jupiter, And
Hmm.
moon is at the same time is also transmitter. I mean, like in a way, I mean, like
Yes.
what you believe is transmitted out to the world in the ninth house. That's
Yeah.
really interesting, and that's a preacher as well. I mean, that's a real, I mean, like religious, in a way, figure. I mean, that is like speaking and like taking everything out to the world.
Yes, absolutely. And the kind of evangelical quest, the warrior is shown by that Aries there. Yeah, on the ascendant. Yeah, definitely. I think that's interesting. So that's the other sort of side of Jupiter, if you like.
Yeah,
Or
because
another
yeah,
side of
because
Jupiter.
yeah, because I was all the time thinking that yeah, Jupiter could be about higher education and everything. Then we were like saying that the religion and the beliefs, etc. And I was like, okay, that could be a religious leader or a teacher or someone like this. So I mean,
Yeah,
like uh,
exactly.
it depending, of course, in which area of life uh, that Jupiter will be transiting during this transit in Cancer, you may also maybe reflect on that. I mean, on that area of life and what you want to do with the this possible expansion or growth or the new journey that Jupiter
Hmm.
may bring into our lives. So
Yes, definitely. Because every time it changes sign, we start a kind of a new part of our journey. That's really true. Jupiter through the signs every 12 years, definitely. It's like Saturn, and the two cycles come together when you're about 60, actually. Finally, Jupiter and Saturn cycle come together at about 60. And that really is quite a watershed, I think, in terms of life, retirement, maybe thinking about what you're going to do with those last uh, well, hopefully quite a lot of years, but definitely you start to realize that you have only a certain number of years left and you need to get on with what you want to make of it. So yeah, it's good. It's good. So, shall we have a look at Jupiter through the signs?
yes, of course. Only before that, let me only tell one thing that is
Sure, sure.
people nearer to the I'm not sharing, no, okay, because I have the screen in front of me. I'm reading from there. That much nearer time. I mean, like the Jupiter was in Cancer. I see 2013, 2001 in general, more
Yeah.
or less. Of course, they and 89, and then we have the 78 and 79 because it went back and forth.
Okay.
And then we also have the 77 for a while, but I will also cover a few more years that no one says that, that you didn't cover us. I mean, like are we like
Okay.
this? So it's like 67, 66, 65, because I think it went back and forth, Gemini, Leo, etc. That's why it all the time went back into Cancer, 54, 42, and 30. I mean, that's the maximum that I went back. So, I mean, like, oh, hopefully the other people are not offended. I was born before 30, and why am I not included? Anyway, so these people will have their Jupiter returns as well,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
they can look into what had happened in the last 12 years in terms of Jupiter, and then what kind of quest would be ahead of them in the next 12 years by looking at the charts that show the Jupiter return, like we look at the solar return. So we can start the houses, I think. Yeah.
I think that's actually, yeah, but I think that's a great way to look at it. And I hadn't actually thought of that, to look at these 12-year cycles and as well as thinking, okay, what's going to happen in the next 12 years, just think, how have I expanded in these previous 12 years? How has Jupiter kind of come into my life and what areas of growth have been happening? So I think that's really interesting. Yes, definitely. Hmm.
Let's start the houses.
Go for it.
You want to start? I always ask, Lucy, you
No,
start.
no, no, no. I'm not going to start because I'm going to do the 12th house because I actually have Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter will be
Ah,
going through my 12th house. So I've been kind of thinking about that and thinking, goodness me, what on earth does that mean?
okay, okay. Then I will try to. I mean, like Jupiter in Cancer in the first house. First house is about ourselves. I mean, no, it's the the beginning, all that initiations, etc., and first years of our life. But it's about us. It's us. I mean, like blood and flesh, us. So I mean, like in Jupiter in Cancer, what could be? I mean, we could be asking the questions of what could I improve? What could I grow in my life? And also, what could I mean, in a way, um, do about my beliefs? I mean, what I believed until now, would there be any change in that? And how are they connected maybe to my tribe, to my family, to my roots, to my past? And if I, depending on them, could I get a maybe a new vision of life for myself? It's
Hmm.
about us. So I think Jupiter in Cancer in the first house, like going through the first house, could have a meaning like that. This is one thing that is coming to my mind.
It occurred to me while you were talking that Jupiter in the first house, you've probably got Cancer on the ascendant. So you're going to be approaching the world in quite a nurturing way anyway. And I remembered Dua Lipa actually because I wrote an article about her. And she has this really big unaspected moon in Cancer in the first house. And I think a lot of it is about kind of empathy with you know, as you go out into the world and imagination as you approach it, but also it's about creating tribe in the world. You know, you're bringing people into you. I think it's quite a sort of appealing sign on the ascendant, really. You know, you're approaching things through the idea of family and tribe and belonging. And maybe that's what you want to create as Jupiter goes through the first house.
Could be, could be, could be. What about the second house?
So in the second house is about self-worth. It's about personal values and resources, finances, because that is certainly part of our resources. And I do think if you've got Cancer there, um, sort of on the cusp of that second house, then it might be a time to expand your finances. You know, that could be a good thing. I'm not promising, but it's just a suggestion, you know, maybe some unexpected money or an opportunity to make money. But I also think it's about an expansion of your self-worth as well and how you feel in terms of your family and your role in the family, perhaps as well. And um, your tribe as a resource and perhaps using that as you know, you go out into the world as well. It's very much about your talents, I think, imagination and how you're sort of bringing your talents to just improve your general situation and your value in the world.
Maybe what when you were saying again tribe, it came to my mind that it's like there is Cancer. Of course, there is a it's a very homely sign like home, etc. What came to my mind that it's like, and Jupiter is like in a way trying to, I mean, improve it and give another meaning and expand it. It could be that like there could be a family recipe or family thing that is going on, and you have to find a way to grow it, and then that will create resources. Or it's like, yeah, it could be like a chef also. I mean, like that is like you are decided into your menu, you add the family recipes, etc.,
Mm.
and then that will be like bringing you more resources and give you more ways to earn money. Maybe it just came to my mind like that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yes, so third house. Third house, I mean, it's like, of course, it's about the more area of communication, but it's also our more like local environment,
Hmm.
etc. And it could be about our siblings and everything. And I think it could be a way to create maybe this uh, new kind of, or you can go all together with your siblings into a journey of exploring the roots, going back to the roots, and that
Hmm.
where you are coming from and where you normally belong to, and everything that going into a maybe a physical journey or a philosophical journey, etc. And then it could be only in your local area also, maybe your roots are there, and then that could also bring a new perspective or a new vision of life through that as well. I mean, like, I think that's one of the ways that we can look at the third house.
Yeah, or I was just imagining maybe as well finding meaning through creating community in your area. So for a family, so maybe maybe you set something up that's going to kind of like help people that need help in your area, to kind of make a family environment for them, people that don't have any place to go, or maybe they're lonely or something like that, bringing that in. But it's all about communication as well, isn't it? The third. So communication through the idea of imagination, really. I think it's very much about expanding how you can use your imagination to create family and tribe as well, and meaning locally and through siblings and
Yeah,
yeah.
could be, could be, could be.
So the
Fourth,
fourth house, sorry?
the
Yeah, the
fourth,
fourth
yeah.
house. Well, the fourth house is Cancer's own house. So, I mean, the fourth house already is about tribe, about the ancestors. It's naturally associated with Cancer. So, this is going to be a very strong position for Jupiter in Cancer. And it's about expanding your connections with the family, with your tribe, delving down deeper to find the meaning through the family inheritance, if you like. It could be a time when you start exploring in a very meaningful way your family history through, I don't know, through one of the websites like Ancestry or something like that, or you start to connect more with older members of your family and realize, what they mean to you. It's also about the land, the land that you grew up on and the land that belongs to you in a sense, and bringing in a sense of belonging to the family and that kind of thing. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, that could be for with the 4,000. Yeah, it's like it's in any case one of the those karmic houses, what they call. I mean, the karmic astrology, etc. When you look at that, it's a good way to explore the past so that you can maybe connect yourself better to the future, because sometimes things stay, I think, in a way unknown to us, and that sometimes for some of the people could be hindering to go ahead, to move forward. So I
Yeah.
think that that could be a good way in that sense. I mean, like, to explore the past, the roots and everything much better, and maybe to see where you belong really, where you, I mean, like, emotionally belong. It's
Mhm.
not like a house for walls and the roof, but emotionally belong can help you uh, finally to move ahead. It could be, I think, some turning point for some of the people as well in that sense.
Just before you go on to the fifth, I just want to add that I think that's a really good point, actually, about the past connecting with the future, and just that all these houses, of course, are very connected to the house that's opposite. So the fourth house connected to the 10th house, and the second with the eighth. So the second being our resources, and how do we mix that with the shared resources of the eighth, and the fourth house, of course, about home and family and tribe and going out into the 10th house of the world. And yeah, so the past, if you like, connecting to the future, I think is a really good way of looking at that.
Yeah. Fifth house. Fifth house, I mean, it's like fifth house could be about of course, the children. There's the fun factor. There's the leisure, and it is also connecting for some of the people is performing. I mean, like it's
Mm.
the as well. I mean, so how does the Jupiter in Cancer related to this? I mean, maybe it's like I mean, it could be the case that um, Jupiter in Cancer, I'd wonder if for some of the people is like the starting of a family. I mean, it's like
Yep.
you can be a family already. I don't say that like you are husband and wife, you are not a family, but it could be like in the sense that maybe deciding to have children and then
Sure.
adding children to your family. In that sense, I think it could be a period that your sense of expansion grow, or you think that for some people it could be that adding children to their lives could put more meaning and give more emotional support for them as well.
Yeah, I think that that is definitely true. It's about how we express ourselves, isn't it? The fifth house and what we do to yeah, to create, if you like, to how we create our lives. So it can definitely be about family, but it can also be about other creations, you know. Not everyone obviously will want to have children or has children. So it's going to be as well about the other kinds of things that we create. And Cancer is super imaginative, so that can be painting or it could be dance. It's receptive, so it could very much be about creating some kind of family or tribal environments that you can just be creative in, setting something up or and something that you maybe then take out to the 11th house of community, which is the one that's opposite. So an expansion definitely in your creative imagination, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be.
Mhm.
What
So,
about six?
the sixth house. So the sixth house is very much about daily life, isn't it? It's about daily life, it's about health, it's about ritual, how we approach our everyday, really. So Jupiter in Cancer is looking at some kind of expansion or meaning that we're going to find through creating or engaging with tribe and family perhaps in our everyday lives. And when we say family and tribe, that does mean in the wider sense. It doesn't necessarily mean blood relations. You know, these can be the people that you connect to in an everyday setting. It can be about work as well. So maybe, you know, work, it feels like your family for this period, and you know, you feel very connected to the people that you see in the everyday world. Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, as we mentioned earlier. So maybe it's a good period for your health, actually, as well. I'm not a health astrologer at all, but it just occurred to me that that could be the case if you have Jupiter there. It could be a sense of expansion, and certainly about thinking about wellness and things you can do to nurture yourself, I think, in the everyday life and nurture those that are just in your environment.
Yeah, it could be. And that while we are coming to the seventh house, it's good to mention that as I mean, of course, Jupiter in Cancer may get into context with the natal placements in our charts, but especially if you or if we have cardinal placements, I think that the contact could be in a different way and it in a more major way. So if you have
Mm.
placements in cardinal signs like the Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and I jumped something
Libra,
in between, Libra.
Libra,
Libra.
Libra.
So I mean, uh, so if you have placements in these cardinal signs, so this Jupiter um, in Cancer period could be much more impactful in your lives. Of course, if there are much harmonious aspects that is happening, that could be much nicer as well. So, like,
That's true. So you
I
mean it's creating squares with these cardinal
yeah, yeah,
signs, so challenging
exactly.
aspects. Yeah. So you might feel it more
Yeah,
strongly. You might feel challenged to actually kind of get
yeah.
out and achieve something.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, exactly. I mean, in the term of opposition, also you try. I mean, some people may have their Jupiter opposition period, etc. It could be a period that you try to balance that. I mean, like
Hmm.
how you are naturally is, and then this transit is like coming through. So you try to find this way of compromising so that you can appreciate this Jupiter in Cancer in certain area of life and Jupiter in Capricorn, which is naturally part of you. So I think that it's
Hmm.
all trying to create that balance as well when it comes at this with the opposition, or in case of squares, probably how can I get stronger out of this instead of being challenged and conflicted and
It's
feel
a good
in
point.
a much I mean, like way. Anyway, so when we come to the seventh house is the house of in general relationships. I mean, it's not necessarily. It's like we are not talking only about one-to-one relationship. Of course, we have the cusp is the descendant, which is more about like the partners who we feel, who we attract, or who we are attracted to, etc. But the seventh house could be about any type of relationship. It could be about business relationships or intimate relationships, more romantic type of relationships. And this is, I think, that could be the case that we may get drawn to more type of the relationships uh, that will be able to help us uh, to improve ourselves and to add something to the other side, also to help the other party or other parties to grow in a in an emotion at an emotional level. It's like in a way, it's a mutual caring part. We can
Okay.
mutually cared
Hmm.
and mutually growing period. I think it could be when we it comes to the seventh house.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. And also just a kind of expansion, perhaps emotional expansion in the area of our relationships or our one-to-one, partnerships, which might, of course, when it goes retrograde, I mean, sometimes that's a time for a rethink or something as well. So it's always worth bearing in mind that the retrograde period, can be not going back on the progress that you've made with Jupiter going through the sign, but just a rethinking, a reworking, a going over that ground again to build something perhaps more solid there. But yeah, definitely. I mean, a focus on our relationships. On also the seventh house can be Howard Sasport said how we're seen by the outside world as well as the tenth. So we could be reaching out to the world then perhaps in a nurturing way or reaching out to our friends or something like that, the one-to-one that we do, and be seen as somebody who's quite nurturing and caring. And but we need to, obviously, with the seventh, it's harder perhaps to bring it into our own lives than it is with the first house, where it's kind of more automatic.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
moving into the eighth, well, that's the other another water house. So we've got another karmic house, if you like, as Terry mentioned. So with these karmic houses, you get the stuff coming up from the past, the family history, um, the stuff that just comes up with us. And I think I'm not an evolutionary astrologer particularly, but I think for those who look at it in a reincarnation sense, that's very much a house that's to do with, what we're bringing with us from the past. So bring with us this kind of family and tribal legacy, if you like. Um, But again, it just in a more modern, practical way, it's to do with shared resources. It's the sharing of our partnerships. So it could be a time to expand and find meaning through that sharing. Um, I mean, the eighth is also to do with death and inheritance and those kinds of things. So that could also be something else that comes up with Jupiter moving through the eighth house um, in Cancer, so maybe some inheritance perhaps from someone who's passed away, which obviously has all kinds of other connotations, emotional connotations that go with it, and how you feel about that. But I do feel it's a possibility. Um, and then just I think a general expansion in the sense of meaning that we have in our relationship and the things that we share with the people that we love, really.
Yeah, I mean, the eighth house, I mean, in that sense, it's interesting. And you mentioned the death and the inheritance. Like, from my personal experience, I can say that it wasn't Jupiter in Cancer, but it was in another sign. And it was the point that, yeah, that Jupiter met the moon. That's the time that my mother passed away. And then passing away means inheritance. I mean, like, it's like one is not it's, I think, very bad experience, but inheritance is like is a good experience. I don't know, I mean, like, it's like that, of course, you have extra money in your hand. I don't know if it's appreciated in the time of a loss, but as the time passes, you know, as the time, in a
As the
way,
grief kind of subsides a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, in a way. And then you start looking at it with a different
Mm.
eyes. I mean, you have a different perspective of that inheritance. I mean,
Hmm.
whatever you have inherited. I mean, it could be, I think, not necessarily money. It could be something like, emotional values. I mean, like,
Mm.
you inherit things that
Definitely.
could not be sold, etc. That could be part of the family legacy, or it could be part of that person that you lost. So then at that moment, maybe I idea that I don't want to see any of this because I'm grieving, I have lost it. But in the end,
Mhm.
by the time passes, I think that Jupiter has that impact. I mean, it's like when they say, it's luck, abundance, etc., blah blah, and then all that thing, but it's like there is that this part that is like hits you in a different way. But
Hmm.
as the time passes, you start giving a different meaning to what
Yes.
comes to you. So I think in that sense we can see Jupiter in two ways in the eighth house
Hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yes. All kinds of legacies and inheritance, not yeah, not just the financial ones. Hmm. Ninth house, Terry. Jupiter's
Yeah,
natural house. Off you go.
yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, it's like the Jupiter in Cancer in the ninth house. Like, as we were looking at the reverse part of the chart of the Billy Graham. I mean, it
Hmm.
could be still. I mean, like, I mean, Jupiter. I mean, it could be about higher education. It can be about the, uh, I mean, like, clergymen, the church, and everything, or any kind of religious thing. And also, we can be relating it to law as well. I mean, like, that the judiciary system is sometimes related with the thing. And we are thinking about this Cancer in the ninth house. I feel that it could be sometimes that also, I mean, it's a house of spirituality and philosophy in that sense. I mean, like, and if you think that, I mean, Jupiter is about our faith, and it could be about our beliefs. I think that when Jupiter in Cancer is going through our ninth house, it could be a re-evaluation of maybe what we are believing it, what is making us uh, emotionally, um, what kind of belief or what kind of philosophy is making us, I mean, emotionally much uh, free. Also, there is a freedom, kind of freedom that is coming of Jupiter as well. What is it? What is it like? How do I feel much
Hmm.
free in this world? I mean, like it could be the case that some of the things might be uh, holding us back, the type of the beliefs, the type of the faith that we have, and we could start a different type of journey and start to think, see things in a different way, which could make us emotionally much with freedom. I think that could be when Jupiter in Cancer in the ninth house could mean for me.
That's interesting. Yes, I hadn't thought of it as a sense of emotional freedom. Um, But yeah, I guess so. But and definitely the idea of a strong emotional faith, I think, a belief system, which doesn't necessarily need to be an organized religion, although it might be, but it's definitely, a sense of belief in something, emotion, and you're very attached that you become attached to, perhaps in some way.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. And Jupiter in Cancer in the 10th house. Well, the 10th house is all about the public life. It's about the public persona, if you like. And Jupiter there is if I mean Jupiter is Zeus, isn't he? And in Greek, so he's the father of the gods. It's very paternal, very kind of avuncular. There's this sense of being in charge of everything. And when you've got Jupiter there, and so I feel this is quite a paternalistic, if you like, in the old sense. And it doesn't mean you have to be a man, by the way. Um, but position, something about taking on kind of the authority of your tribe, if you like, being a tribal leader in some ways in that sense. And that tribe might be your tribe at work. It might be, it might be family or it might be something else, but it's something that you suddenly take on a public role to lead because Cancer is this cardinal sign leading the tribe, if you like, towards the next stage. And it could be some kind of, project that you've got going in the office or something. And you feel like your team are your family to some extent.
Yeah, could be. And also, when I'm thinking about the Cancer, I always, of course, think about the tarot cards. I cannot stop making
That's fine.
myself. It's like thinking about the because when the some keywords appear, I feel like because it's the Chariot, the Cancer,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and then you are trying to like, what do you do? Is like you are trying to there is a this in at least the traditional Rider-Waite Smith deck. There is this charioteer, which I always think about
Mm-hmm.
the apex planet of T square. But it's in this sense. I mean, like you are trying to get the lead of life back because you try to put those black and white horse or whatever that is trying to go into different directions. You try to put
Mm-hmm.
them in the same direction, and you have to find your trying to find your path and then move forward. I think in Jupiter in Cancer is very much like that. I mean, like you try to, yeah, yes, that's the chariot. Yes, from the Rider-Waite Smith. That's Wikipedia. So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I mean, of course, here we have the I think more the Sphinx. I think instead of the horses. But that's the point. I mean, how do I put different aspects in my life and put them all together, make them agree on at least a minimum ground and lead my life and move forward. So in that sense, I mean, that cardinal part of Cancer might help us how we would like to see ourselves, what is our vision of authority or as a public figure in life. I think Jupiter in Cancer could be about that in the 10th house as well.
Yeah, it's a good point actually. And becoming, yeah, that public figure, that leader in the sense of the family of the tribe. Yeah, I always think about it as trying to work out your direction and then going for it with the chariot. It's a nice card. I like it.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, Cancer card. So 11th house, 11th
Hmm.
house. So 11th house is like it's the house of the the friends groups and all the I mean it's still the wider community, but it's also the house of hopes and dreams
Yes.
as well. I mean, so it's like it could be the case that with the Jupiter in Cancer, it's like um, we might be trying to explore what kind of dreams, what kind of groups, dreams that we dream of, or the groups that we belong to, or we could belong to potentially, can give that emotional support to us and can nurture us in a way that so that we may find a way if there's a new journey to start, we may feel like we are really supported and we can move forward. I think that that could be
Hmm.
a quest for that in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. Yes, exactly. Expanding our sense of meaning through groups and communities and emotional support and creating tribe through those areas of life. Absolutely. It can be quite political too, can't it? The 11th house, I think. So, it could be a sense of being active for something in that sense. Maybe some of the Cancer themes for land or family or belonging or some of those themes
It
or
could
other
be.
themes entirely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it could be also. I mean, like you are going into a I mean, like charities, etc., all that kind of thing, because there's kind of also, as you, I mean, like, there's an emotional satisfaction and you see a different way of life and you gain a different perspective when you are volunteering, etc.,
Hmm.
and you get involved in those kind of organizations. So I think the charity work and that kind of thing, I mean, like it may be more like NGO rather than, I mean, there's a, of course, political side as well, but also there could be more like a non-political side and much volunteer side that could go with the Jupiter in Cancer in the 11th as well. I mean, like, whatever
I
your
think
dreams are.
that's no, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think you've kept saying it actually, the idea about emotional support and being emotionally connected with Jupiter and Cancer to whatever it is that's giving you meaning through these signs. And that's obviously really important. Yeah, I think it's always a really good point. Yeah, so Jupiter in Cancer in the 12th house. Well, yes, as I mentioned earlier, I do have Jupiter in Cancer in the 12th house, or I will have. So this is going to be quite interesting for me. And I'm wondering about connecting really because, it's a very lunar sign, isn't it? Cancer. So I'm wondering about connecting to dreams, connecting to the idea of just sort of retreat, really, and kind of maybe hunkering down and I honestly, I've been thinking and thinking about this. I mean, it's also connected to the 12th house to ideas of hospitals and prisons and all those places that you go to get away from the world. So, I'm a bit concerned that Jupiter and Cancer, am I going to be joining some kind of, religious community that kind of takes me away from the world? Probably not, actually, I feel. But it might there might be something about that of retreating to achieve some kind of creative objective, I think, um, with that. And it's to do with connecting to the universe, the greater whole. It's to do with finding that sense of spirituality and tribe globally, if you like. So, I mean, that could be really lovely. I'm looking forward to that. So interested actually to see what this year brings with Jupiter and Cancer. And yeah, maybe next year I'll tell you if we do Jupiter and Leo. We can check in. How is Jupiter and Cancer for you, Terry? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jupiter in Leo would be my Jupiter return actually, as I have Jupiter in Leo.
Okay.
So I mean, Jupiter in Cancer is in my would be mostly going through my 11th house. And I think, yeah, 12th house is interesting. I mean, like at one hand, there is this sense of isolation, as you said, the retreat and like, I mean, going to sometimes silent and being on your own part. But there is also this need of connecting with the collective and also going. I mean, like it's completely it's the I think the period of I mean it's not the period but it's the place of like you are connecting with your ancestors also, right? I mean it's like
Sure.
because that's the 12th house is generally I mean like those great ancestors etc. It's another karmic house that it's like it's completely and also it could be also the history that is behind, so it could be a different way to connect with them and find that maybe that emotional connection with your past. Uh, Again, I mean, like because it's another ancestral house. I mean, so it could be at one side, yeah, it could be a bit isolation, but it's also there is also this kind of uh, creating a new relationship with the past because it's like it's the you know that it's the part before the birth. I mean, getting
Yeah.
ready to the birth as well.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
it could
it's,
be.
yeah, and that makes me think actually that I think it could be very creative actually this period because we do talk about sort of going away into your 12th house, to do something creative before you then give birth to it in the first house and bring it out into the world. So, and that's a very Cancerian theme as well, with the idea of sort of nurturing and pregnancy and all those kinds of themes that are associated with moon. So, yeah, so maybe I'm going to have this fantastically creative time. I'm hoping
That
so.
it could be. It's like I all thinking about like that cocoon. I mean, it's like that the caterpillar pillar is inside, and then it's
Mm.
like yeah, that developing
Yes, yeah.
developing there, and then it's like the gestation part, and then all of a sudden, and then you come get into the first house, and that's the point that the butterfly is born and it comes out. It's like
Mm.
getting ready because it's Leo. I mean, the next round is Leo. I mean,
So
like getting ready
here I
for that from
am.
the 12th to 1st is like getting ready for that creative
Transformation.
period. I mean,
Yeah.
right? It's a kind of
Yeah.
transformation, exactly. So you can also take into that account, I think, as
Gosh, I'm
well.
quite looking forward to it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, we got there. I mean, this has been over an hour, I think. So we're probably
Oh,
done, aren't we?
wow.
It's been a
Yeah.
great chat. Thank you, Terry. I've really enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's always very nice. I mean, to chat with you, Alison, as well. I mean, it's really great, and we all the time. I think the people should know that. I mean, we have to get ready for the dates because otherwise, I mean, I'm not going to keep. I mean, as when I was 15, 20 years old, I would also keep the dates in my mind like a computer, but not anymore. So for the dates, degrees, and that kind of thing, we get ready. But the rest of it is all improvised, and I think talk opens talk. I mean, thoughts open other thoughts, etc. So I think it's always a nice way to cover all these transits and shifts in the sky together with Allison. And this is Jupiter. Well, this is Jupiter in Cancer, but we will be back with the Uranus in Gemini soon,
That's
mid-June, because in
exciting.
July Uranus will go into the Gemini, getting out of the fixed Earth sign to the
Absolutely.
mutable air sign. It's like a could be a blast, or I
It
don't
could
know.
indeed. Yeah, yeah. And that's the last kind of major transit, isn't it? I mean, they all kind of ingress back into their other signs before they move into them conclusively next year, Saturn and not Jupiter, but Saturn and Neptune and Gemini and Uranus and Gemini. But really, this is the last shift. So we start to see, what's the world going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it started with the Pluto in Aquarius, and now
Yeah.
will come, I mean, in terms of outer planets, Uranus in Gemini, that will go for 7 years onwards from that moment. So
Hmm.
that could be the real, like the locking the key, throwing it into the air in
Yes.
that sense. I mean, so we will see what might happen with Uranus in Gemini. So we'll be back soon. Yeah, thank you, Alison, once again for being here with me
Yeah.
and
Thanks, Terry.
talking and sharing your ideas. We'll see all of you soon. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.